In the labyrinthine guts of Malifaux city, where the breach's oily moor belched forth nightmares into the gaslit sprawl, Valyria Kane was a storm in human skin. 32 years of earthside grit and Malifaux malice had carved her into a weapon, lean muscle rippling under scarred olive skin, auburn hair matted with sweat and shadow, obsidian eyes that promised oblivion. Her duster hid an arsenal, twin soulstone-etched revolvers, whisper and echo, slung low on hips that swayed with lethal intent, but it was the jagged shard embedded in her left palm that marked her as cursed and coveted. Outcast to her marrow, she'd buried husbands, lovers, and bosses from San Francisco to the sprawl's slaughterhouses. They called her the Breach Widow for a reason. She left widows in her wake. The gig reeked of desperation from the start. Elias Crow, that maggot-pale resurrectionist, had cornered her in the Broken Spire saloon amid the haze of opium and regret. Heartstone Kane, he'd wheezed, fangs glinting like cheap jade. Pristine from the catacombs' black heart. Guild's digging it up tomorrow. Snatch it, and we're kings of the grave dance. The pouch of coins hit the table heavy, half up front. Valyria's shard hand twitched, tasting the lie like bile. Crow's eyes darted too much, his stitches too fresh. But coin was coin, and the city's hunger gnawed deeper than any conscience. She hit the catacombs at dusk, the descent a vertical gauntlet of rusted ladders and dripping ichor. The air thickened to tar, soulstone veins pulsing like infected arteries. Her boots scraped ossuary floors littered with petrified diggers, guilt fools who'd heard the song and never surfaced. The shard in her hand burned, sinking to a subterranean dirge that clawed at her skull. Return fee devour the guild op was a hornet's nest, steamjacks hissing hydraulics, enforcers in coal scuttle helms barking at chained laborers, gremlins with picks, convicts with picks and prayers. Valyria ghosted the perimeter, a shadow in the flicker of arc lamps. A flash of her cleavage and a whisper, guild's got a leak, bought her a miner's bib and a descent pass. She plunged into the forbidden fork, where the song crescendoed to a banshee wail. The cavern yawned like a god's throat, vaulted ceilings dripping with crystal fangs, floor a mosaic of fused bone and basalt. At its pulsing core, the heartstone throbbed, walnuts-eyed, crimson-veined, levitating in a cradle of thorns that writhed like living barbed wire. Guards circled 3 bruisers in powered exosuits, humming with ley-line feeds, and a witch hunter overseer, her face a porcelain mask etched with wards. Valyria struck like lightning. She lobbed a Grumman flash grenade, pin-pulled with her teeth, the acrid fizz biting her tongue, and the cavern ignited in blinding soulfire. The guard staggered, exosuits sparking. She vaulted the rail, echo barking death. The first enforcer's helmet shattered in a spray of pressurized blood, his body crumpling as she twisted midair, boot heel caving the second's visor. Glass crunched under her soul, he gargled steam from ruptured lungs. The third swung a vibram all, the air screaming. She ducked, the blow pulverizing stone to shrapnel that lacerated her cheek. Hot copper flooded her mouth. She countered with whisper point blank to his gorget, the soulstone round erupting his throat in a geyser of cauterized flesh. The overseer recovered fastest, her ward staff unleashing a lash of azure chain lightning. It forked toward Valyria, crackling with the stench of ozone and ozone-burned hair. She rolled, the bolt grounding in a pillar that exploded in a hail of razor shards. One sliced her thigh, parting leather and meat to the bone, pain lanced white-hot, but she channeled it, shard hand flaring. Lay threads whipped from her palm, coiling the witch's ankles and yanking her into the air. The overseer screamed, staff arcing wildly. Valyria surged, driving her stiletto up through the woman's jaw into her brain ben. The body twitched, words fizzling out like spent fireworks. The heartstone's thorns retracted at her touch, the gem latching to her shard like a parasitic twin. Power detonated through her veins, visions assaulting the Tyrant, a colossal empress of thorn and venom. Her fall in the closing, essence splintered into these stones to seed eternal revenge. But the surge twisted Crow's face flickered in the deluge, not as client, but conspirator. He sent you to die, the stone whispered. The thunders own him. The stone's mine, ours. Betrayal hit like a gut shot. Valyria snarled, pocketing the gem as the cavern bucked, alarms shrieking, reinforcements thundering down shafts. She bolted for the exit, but the floor split, birthing the guardian, and not one Nephilim, but a brood. 3 obsidian horrors erupted, wings like scythed reaper cloaks, maws unhinging to reveal furnace gullets. The lead hulking, horned, eyes like forged embers roared. Thief spawn. The heart hungers. Chaos erupted. The alpha lunged, claws raking furrows that sprayed phosphorescent blood from ruptured veins in the walls. Valyria fired on the run, echo chewing through a wing membrane in a spray of ichor that burned like acid on her skin. She vaulted a collapsing ledge, the second Nephilim's tail whipping past shadow stalactites into a lethal rain. Shards pelted her back, drawing bloody furrows. She bit down a scream, twisting to loose whisper into its underbelly. The round burrowed, detonating in a bloom of vitals that painted the cavern red-black. The alpha caught her mid-leap, talons snagging her duster and hurling her into a bone pile. Impact drove the air from her lungs, ribs cracking like dry twigs. The heartstone throbbed against her ribs, feeding her borrowed strength. She rolled as its jaws descended, fangs like obsidian pilings grazing her shoulder, shredding flesh to the clavicle. Blood slipped her arm, but she jammed Echo into its maw and pulled the trigger. The beast's head exploded in a cataclysm of teeth and soul fire, gore splattering her face in burning rivulets. The third Nephilim screeched, wings buffeting hurricane winds that hurled debris like cannon shot. Valyria staggered up, vision tunneling, and channeled the stone fully, risking soul burn. Fate threads erupted from her shard, a web of crimson lashes that ensnared the flyer mid-dive. It thrashed, treading the bindings. She dodged claws that disemboweled a fallen guard, entrails uncoiling like ropes. Desperate, she hurled her stiletto soul-forged tip plunging into an eye. The Nephilim convulsed. Crashing into the pedestal, the cavern imploded, ceiling fracturing in a cascade of megaton rubble. She clawed free from the debris, every breath fire, thigh wound pumping arterial spray. Alarms wailed guildjacks inbound, their treads grinding bone to paste. Valyria staggered into the sewers, the Heartstone song now a triumphant dirge, revealing the twisted wasn't Crow's prize. It was a beacon, summoning the Tyrant's remnant to horde to raise the city unless she claimed its throne. Surfacing in the warehouse quarter, fog cloaking her like a shroud, she bound her wounds with torn duster strips, the fabric sodden crimson. Pursuit baited guild bloodhounds, mechanical snarlers with no scones sniffing soul resonance, crashing through crates. She vaulted a stack, whisper felling the lead in a hail of sparking joints. But the pack closed 6 automata, pistons whining, our claws extended. The fight was frenzy. She danced death in the muck, revolver thunder punctuating her spins. One lunged, she sidestepped, using its momentum to smash its skull against a girder, hydraulics burst in oily ejaculate. Another clamped her calf, pain seared a servo's ground bone, but she stomped its sense a cluster, sparks flying into her eyes. Blinded, she fired blind echo, shearing a limb that pinwheeled into its kin, toppling to in a tangle of flailing steel. The alpha hound pounced, jaws whirring. She met it with shard threads, garroting its chassis until gears screamed and popped. Limping free, she hit a dead sprint toward the bayou fringe, where crooked spires leaned like drunken priests. But the air split with cherry blossom perfume. 10 Thunder's ambush. Miss Yuki materialized from the mist, Katharna a silver blur, flanked by 2 Ronin with chain Katharnas revving like chainsaws. Cain, the enforcer, cooed, blade level. Crow sang like a canary. The stones ours yield, or join the ghosts. Twist upon twist, Crow hadn't just sold her out. He'd rigged the stone to detonate on claim. A Thunder's kill switch to frame the guild. Valyria's laugh was blood-flacked. Your puppet strings snapped, Yuki. This heart beats for me now. The melee ignited. Yuki struck first, a faint low, true slash high. Valyria parried with Echo S barrel, the impact jarring her fractured ribs. Sparks flew as rune steel met so lead. A Ronin charged, chain blade howling. She dropped low, the lynx carving air, then rose with whisper guiding him from groin to sternum, entrails looped out like festive garlands. The second Ronin flanked, but she anticipated, shard lashing his legs mid-stride. He toppled, screaming as threads tightened, pulverizing femurs to paste. Yuki pressed, relentless, a whirlwind of silk and savagery. Her Katharna kissed Valyria's collarbone, parting flesh in a hot unzipped blood sheeted down her breast. Valyria countered, pummeling the blade aside and driving a knee into Yuki's midriff. Armor cracked, breath whooshed out. They grappled, close and feral, nails raking cheeks, elbows to throats, the Heartstone pulsing between them like a fevered organ. Yuki's frost runes flared, icing Valeria's grip. She snarled, channeling the stone's fire crimson backlash, shattering the enchantments in a steam explosion that scalded them both. Valeria broke free, hurling Yuki into a soulstone crate. The impact splintered wood, shards embedding like caltrops. The enforcer rose, staggering, but Valeria was done playing. Echo sang Finality 2 to the chest, blooming red petals on silk. Yuki crumpled, whispering a curse in old Malifaux tongue. The brood wakes as if summoned. The ground quaked. From sewer grates poured the remnant lesser Nephilim, swarms of chitinous spawn with stinger tails and venom fangs, drawn by the stone's cry. The horde surged a tide of clicking horrors, blotting the quarter in writhing black. Guild jacks wheeled in, guns blazing, thunders, reinforcements ghosted from alleys, blades flashing. But Valeria turned, the heartstone crowning her palm like a scepter. Claymos had thrummed. Rule the feast. She raised her hand, and the brood halted, then knelt. The twist crystallized. She wasn't thief or widow anymore. She was vessel, Tyrant's heir, the city's doom or salvation. As Sporn parted for her, she limped into the fray, revolvers blazing a path through the chaos. Malifaux's factions would shatter against her now. And Valeria Kane? She grinned through the blood, queen of the endless night,